All right, we are live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Long time no see. I'm super excited to have you celebrating with me today because we're going to read for the first time the brand new opening of the Vow That Twisted Fate's expanded edition, which is officially live today. And it is 99 cents through the end of July as an ebook. Right now, it's live on Amazon. The other retailers like Barnes and Noble and Apple and them are updating. So I am super excited about it. If you would like to grab this, definitely go do it. When I was originally calculating how many extra pages are going into this expanded edition, it said that it was like 20 or so. But that was in Microsoft Word. And so when I was creating the graphics that you guys may have seen today for the launch, I was like, oh, it's got over 20 additional pages worth of content that was not in the original. It turns out that on the Amazon page counter, it actually has over 100 new pages worth of content on top of the original page count. So I guess I feel like a legit, a legit epic fantasy writer at this point, right? Because it's like, oh, now my book's up in the 400s of pages, not far off of 500. So, yeah, very excited about that. But if you want to know why I redid and decided to relaunch the Vow That Twisted Fate, you can definitely come back next Wednesday. I'm going to be chatting about that. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the link here for you guys in the chat if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter, maybe you can see it on the screen. But it's books2 with a number 2, read.com/the Vow That Twisted Fate. And again, the updated version is on Amazon, and the other sites will be updated hopefully in the next day to 2 days. So, crossing fingers. So, let's dive right in. I have this going live. If you have questions, comments, feedback, pull it up on the screen and leave me a comment, I guess, and I will pull it up on my screen. I'm all flustered. The introvert side of me is showing a little bit. All right, let's dive in. So the book opens with The Two Queens' War. I never thought I'd watch all the good things in my world disappear right before my eyes in an instant. Not just my loved ones, my castle, or my pretty gowns. Not just the woods, the flowers, and the waterfalls. No. Even the stars in the sky are vanishing. The hair on my neck and arms stands on end. I barely keep my feet as earthquake after earthquake drags on and on. Rubble rains down from a burnt black sky, slamming into buildings and roads. Smoke and flames rise from the craters now pockmarking the ground. An unpierceable veil of gloom heralds ravenous death, which taunts me from both inside my city walls as well as from within my own flesh, blood, and soul. A horrifying crescendo of cars squealing and crashing into the rubble surrounds me. People scramble from their cars, pouring out into the streets despite the danger of falling from above, desperate to escape the city. The fear of the demons within our walls overrules any logic that demons masquerading as light await just as cruelly beyond the gates. Other cars plummet into cracks and growing in the earth. A cavernous divide overflowing with red-hot lava splits the land on the horizon. It cracks in a perfect circle, trapping my capital city on an island in a molten ocean. Skyscrapers topple. As the towers collapse in on themselves, smoke and ash rain down, suffocating any unfortunate enough to be outside. The ground of our island shines out, a dazzling white as though covered with snow. My queen! Vardish, my druid advisor, comes running, one antler smoldering bright red and burned down to mere inches above his scalp. Blood sops through his silken forest green shirt. He collapses, clutching an arrow protruding from his chest. Vardish! I shout, catching him before he hits the floor. Ripping open his shirt, I pry the arrow from his chest. My heart sinks into my stomach. A still red metal brand, affixed in place of an arrowhead, leaves a charred, oozing rune written in fairy tongue on his chest. Evil, it reads. Ripping the sleeve off my dress, I press the cloth against the wound. My fists shake, and my jaw aches from clenching my teeth so hard. Another poor soul branded simply for being different, for being unwanted. It's unforgivable. I will my trembling fingers to still as my free hand rests atop his charring antler. Torgrin Velnaralensia, I whisper in the fairy tongue. Douse the flames. Though darkness washes over me, blinding me for a moment, scant tendrils of teal smoke escape my black-nailed fingertips and soothe the flames beneath them. The antler dulls, then falls from Vardish's head. My queen, he whispers, and then his eyes fall shut. Trembling returns, unbidden to my hands as I check his neck for a pulse. A breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding rushes from my lungs. He's alive. Maedra! Sayre, my sworn, kneels at my side. My commander and lover's long black hair flows down past his waist, loose despite being in battle. His armor is gone, and his black muscle shirt is torn as though run through with claws. Only one wound is visible through the holes, though. His own brand from several battles ago glows red. What happened? I ask. Where's your armor? With a child who needed it. Taking my hand in his long, slender fingers, Sayre pulls me inside to the observatory window. Oriel, an imp medic, scurries over to care for Vardish. We're out of time, he whispers, glancing back at the others to make sure they don't hear. Valera's troops are going to wipe us off the face of the earth. If you're going to end this, you need to do it now. A bright red ring edges into my eyesight. My head is foggy, floaty. This? Not again. I rub my eyes, trying to focus, trying to keep the darkness writhing within me at bay. Below me, people flee for the divide between the city gates and the land beyond the lava, but there's no way to cross. My imp allies try to help them, but the humans we would protect only greet us with fear. The White Queen Valera's armies loose volleys of brand-bearing arrows into the ranks of my soldiers, downing wave after wave of them. You know the world will never accept us as their ruler, Sayre. I turn to him, my hearing fading in and out. How long do I even have? What will happen if I, like those of the underworld who call me their queen, accept the invisible brand of evil that Queen Valera has cursed me with? Even if we win, I whisper, gripping Sayre's hand till my already pale knuckles go completely white. You and I will always lose. Our people will never be treated equally. Taking my face in his hands, he leans toward me. His lips are soft on my forehead. He places my hand against the rune on his chest, then pulls me into a hug. If standing for you brands me eternally as evil, he whispers, I will follow you into the darkness. Icy cold black chains creep down my arms from behind me like snakes, coiling around my wrists. When I blink, they vanish. I blink again, and the chains return. Sayre's face is gone, replaced by a pair of ravenous red eyes and a face of horrendous black smoke. The face I've dreamt about in nightmares, but always wanted to believe I would never really see. Smoke like taloned hands grasp me around my neck, dragging me forward. The breath from the creature's mouth scorches my face and sends waves of searing pain down my body. But when I scream, no sound leaves my lips. Leaning forward, the creature whispers into my ear. It's time. I blink. The words came from my mouth, not the creature's. Though the words are no longer my own, I hear myself speak once more. Bring me the White Queen. Sayre's face reappears, and he gives me a brief kiss before bowing and hurrying away. Watching him go is like watching him walk into a dark, ever-stretching tunnel. He looks back at me, but then he's not himself at all. The smoke creature stands in his place. Sayre's bright blue eyes snuffing out for a moment before reigniting as red flames in the smoky face. I feel myself falling and darkness overtaking me. Darkness with bright red eyes. Chapter 1. A scavenging trip for ancient machines in the valley where my mother, the queen, once died was probably always doomed to end in failure for me as well. Despite having no ancient machines or even rusty old parts to surprise father with for his birthday, the sun is too warm and the forest too beautiful to remain glum as I ride back toward the castle. Birds land in the branches to either side of me, whistling good afternoon and other salutations which are translated in my head by the fairy magic flowing through my veins. Good morning, Robin. How are your eggs? I asked the closest robin, a young female who chittered of recently establishing her first nest. The young robin perches atop my horse's head, the horse riding onward without response. Bobbing up and down in a bird's bow, she turns her head to one side to see me more clearly. Well, milady, thank ye. If you'd had a mind to bless it, I would be most grateful. Of course, I have left my right at the castle today as I was to go scavenging, but I assure you that the next time I return I will bless your hatchlings. Taking note of the robin's unique blue-gold chest feathers for the next time I return her bobbing bow with a nod and a warm smile. Even as her feathers flick away, heaviness settles into my chest. Without my right, a pendant enchanted by the fairies as a way for the queens of my people to channel the magic passed down through our mother's bloodline, I dare not try to grant wishes. Each wish I grant comes true, but requires life force, some of the casters, in exchange. Without the pendant to temper it, the chances are high that I will spend far too much, possibly succumbing my life altogether. A small creature scrambles out from the brush, lobbing up on all four of its squat legs to keep up with me. I rein in Flora, my horse, to a more comfortable pace for my newest visitor. Hello, Badger. What news of the outer shrubbery? I ask. The badgers mind the wild-grown shrubberies and fruit trees deep within the heart of the forest, in exchange for some of our human-grown produce in the autumn. 'Tis flowering with blackberries aplenty, milady. We'll be ready to pick on the morrow. I'll let the farmers know. Thank you. The badger patters away, only to be replaced with a much faster squirrel, who scampers straight up Flora's flank to sit atop her head. Oh, squirrel, do you bring news of the Nera Queen, Elistine? Queen Elistine weathered the freeze quite well this year, milady. She'll be remaining in the grand, gnarled oak atop Fairystead another cycle. Fairystead. My eyes turn to the largest mountain, far off in the east. My ancestor, Queen Valera the White, once stood atop that peak with the fairy lords and ladies, begging for aid to bring our land the peace we have now. Since her departure, my family has been forbidden to return. Fairy magic came at a high price, and the abomination of a short-lived mortal imbued with the purest of powers brought the disdain of many fair folk. My heart longed to see the mythical silver halls where clouds were frozen and lit with starlight, where magic came and went between all without harming a soul, and music swelled at all hours of the day. As glorious as it all sounded, I knew it would never be. Not for me, anyway. Very well, I say, forcing my attention back to the squirrel. I shall inform Gerald as such. Thank you all, but I must be off, lest Gerald worries. The squirrel bows outright in a human fashion, its tiny front arms coming down to both sides as it bends at the waist before departing. A broad smile crosses my lips. No wonder the squirrels have been ambassadors for my family for this long. They could adapt to almost any culture. Flora slows to a trot as we exit the towering trees of the forest. Above us, the sky is as blue as a baby robin's egg, though the tinges of the coming evening's pink sunset have started to stretch across the sky. Below us, the dirt gives way to cobblestones covered in moss. The castle, a bleached white structure of stone, towers above the walls before us. We cross the drawbridge over the moat, the setting sun behind me casting an orange glow against the castle's white walls. And Sophie, my cat, is like, no! Earthquake on the computer. Only a few steps inside the gate, I am met by the smell of fresh rosemary bread. My mouth waters when we pass the outdoor stone ovens on the edge of the market, where bakers in flour-dusted black aprons stand tending to the staple of the evening's meal. Children play, laughing in the streets. The murmur of people trading becomes clearer as Flora trots leisurely toward the stables. Welcome home, milady, a little girl around age 6 greets me with a smile. Stretching up on her tiptoes, She presents an apple with grubby hands. For you. Bending down, I accept her gift and blow her a kiss. Her face reddens. Bright blue ribbons fly loose from her pigtails as she whirls around and skips away hand in hand with a younger girl in a simple pink and white striped bonnet. As we make our way through the market, I greet my people and an occasional visiting merchant. I'm not surprised to see both dwarven and elven merchants trading wares with us today. The clear skies and cool breezes make for lovely traveling weather between our lands. There are some who say I am the reincarnation of one of my ancestors, the White Queen Valera, who vanquished all evil in our world once and for all. Those same people tell stories of a time when our world was polluted with smog and covered with man-made towers of glass, concrete, and metal. They tell of hideous and wicked creatures who killed for pleasure or greed instead of living in harmony with each other and the earth as we do today. They tell of a war fought with machines, fire, and weapons that laid low entire cities in seconds. Those stories are all just twisted versions of history from the dusty tomes that sit in the castle library today. And yet the adoration of people, both human and otherwise, show me this is a continuing testament to the sacrifice of one selfless queen. A queen whose shoes seem to engulf my every step, leaving me teetering ever on the brink of embarrassing collapse. How can a young queen who has known no evil in her life ever hope to live up to such a legacy? As if sensing my hesitation, thunder booms in the distance. The sky is clear overhead, but dark clouds linger on the distant northern horizon. Pausing by the stable, I hold up a hand, closing my eyes to test the wind. Fast, warm, but fast. A storm is brewing. "Milady," Cliffin, the stable hand, greets me with a bow. He takes the reins from me and lends me a hand down. "Thank you, Cliffin." Flora snuffles and snorts, shoving her nose against my shoulder. Laughing, I slide a handful of dragonberries from my pocket and let her gobble them from my palm. Sticky purple and pink juice dribbles onto the white cobblestones below. Above me, the sky is shifting from light blue to a swirling dark gray. Ominous clouds creep in our direction. Humidity hangs in the air, but there's a tinge of coolness on the wind despite the warmth of the summer day. Cliffin leads Flora away toward the stables, while I make my way to the castle's entrance nearby. Swinging open the metal door and stepping inside, I'm immediately enveloped in the scent of roasted carrots, leeks, and tomatoes. The lesser chefs, 6 apprentices under the head chef, greet me with quick but brief smiles as they bustle to prepare for the evening meal. The head chef must be in the grand hall cooking in the fireplace, the sole source of heat in the castle. I try to stay out of their way. Stepping to one side, I look for my advisor. Normally, he would be sneaking some blown sugar candies from the drying racks around this time. Candies made especially for the children. "Gerald," I call out when I don't see him in the room. "Arla!" My younger sister Elsie bursts into the kitchen from the grand hall. She throws her arms tightly around me. 7 years younger than me, Elsie is still in the prime of her teenage years, having just turned 13. Standing back, her bright green eyes peek out at me beneath the mop of red curls tumbling into her face. 2 yellow ribbons hang limp in her long, thick hair. Jumping up and down, she claps her hands, gushing, "A storm is coming, you know. Gerald just told me." "It most certainly looks like it." I laugh. I take her hand and spin her around. The hem of her blouse flutters out of her skirt. Tucking it back in for her, a brief memory of our mother doing the same thing when Elsie and I were growing up comes back to me. "And why does that make you so giddy?" I ask her. "Everyone can stay in the castle tonight, right, Arla?" Elsie begs. A couple lesser chefs glance up from their work, smiling in our direction. Pulling the useless ribbons from Elsie's hair, I turn her to face away from me. I pull her bushy red curls into a single simple braid down the middle of her back, like I've done 1,000 times before. "Of course," I say, turning her to face me once more. "Why don't you go let everyone know they can join us in the main hall for dinner? The dwarven and elven merchants, too." "Yay! Thank you!" She gives me a peck on the cheek before darting out the back door. That won't be a problem, will it, ladies? I asked the lesser chefs. Of course not, milady, one of them laughs, shaking her head. Go on into the grand hall, milady. You may find Gerald waiting for you there. Thank you. Stepping out of the kitchen into the grand hall, I barely have time to sidestep the head chef. Sorry, milady, she calls, barreling into the kitchen with a hot tray of wheat buns. The corners of my lips turn up a little. I try to stifle a giggle, turning to look for Gerald. Tables are being set out in preparation for dinner. Visiting merchants line their unsold wares against the back wall. The grand hall doubles as both a banquet hall and a throne room, though a throne hasn't been used here for hundreds of years. The smooth granite floors shimmer in the light streaming in through the windows. Murals of woods, skies, and mountains carved into the floor almost seem alive in this light. Queen Valera the White, who ended the ancient war and banished evil from existence, loved living things too much to bear the destruction of the trees. It is said that not a single piece of wood was used in the castle's construction. However, my study of history taught me that not many trees were left at the end of the war. I suspect the use of stone was more out of necessity than a statement of value for life. Milady Arlena, Gerald rushes over to me, ushering me toward the stairs just inside the doors. I implore you to heed my words and not go out so close to dusk. The Queen Mother met her death in such a way. I give the poor elderly man a hug, holding him close. I'm fine, Gerald. I'm sorry I made you worry. Milady, he sighs, hugging me with his arms trembling from age. Gerald has faithfully served our family ever since he was appointed as my grandmother's butler during her reign. The tender-hearted man later became my mother's advisor when she ascended the throne. Mother. The thought of her death sends a shiver down my spine. We were very close, but I don't have many memories of her or my father before Elsie was born when I was 7. I'm unsure why. Mother passed away after a tragic landslide accident while adventuring in the woods. Elsie and I were both children at the time. Elsie had not even learned to read yet. Gerald stepped in to aid my ill-equipped father with raising us, bringing us up as future queens on my mother's behalf. Do you know where father is? I ask him as we take the stairs to the upper floor. He's out helping the merchants turn down their stalls and store their wares before the storm, milady, Gerald says. Good, I sigh. That's better than eating up all the food before dinner. Gerald chuckles behind me. He stops outside my bedroom door, in the middle of a long hallway between the royal suite and the staff bedchambers. Opening it for me, he stands back a respectful distance. I need you to organize tonight's stay for me, Gerald, I say, taking his hand. I'm only one person. I can't do it alone. We don't know how long the storm will last. I don't want anyone to worry. Of course, milady. His coarse, salt and pepper beard tickling my knuckles as he kisses them lightly with respect before standing to leave. I will make sure that each guest brings a bedroll and clothing from their homes before entering for the evening, should a need arise for them to stay within our walls. Thank you. He bows once more before returning to the hall. Already, voices echo up the stairs as people make their way in for the evening. Closing my door, I cross my room to a black wrought iron rod on the far wall that holds my clothes. I slip out of my riding clothes, which are still striped with green from vines and grass and smudged with mud and clay from digging in the nearby valley. Dumping the dirty clothes into an empty bucket by the door, I change into an ankle-length sky blue gown. I comb out my waist-length blonde hair, looking myself over in the mirror to make sure nothing is out of place. Arlo, they're here! Elsie bursts into the room, beaming. Her face is hanging halfway out of her ribbons again. Face. Ha! That's a reading typo. Her hair is hanging halfway out of her ribbons again. Only on the live. And her skirt is smudged with dirt. I know, I say, reaching a hand out to her. Come on, you can't go down to dinner looking like that, especially on Father's birthday. You're going to sing for him, right? Of course. Going next door to her room, I send her to her own dress rack to pick a different outfit. Outside the balcony's glass double doors, the sky is a dark charcoal color. A thick curtain of gray hovers below the clouds in the distance. Something in me is uneasy at the sight of the rolling clouds creeping in our direction. Dark auras I haven't seen before swirl within them. It's already started raining, I say. I know! Elsie giggles, oblivious to my unease. It was sprinkling a little while we were bringing things inside. How about this? I'm not surprised to see her wearing her favorite green velvet dress, one with a golden hem and belt, and bright red roses embroidered around the neckline. Beautiful, I smile. Want to wear my gold necklace again tonight? It's so pretty with that dress. Elsie bobs on her tiptoes before hurrying out the door to retrieve her favorite piece of jewelry from my room. She returns moments later with a simple gold chain and delicate white gold rose pendant in hand. Talon, the elven crown prince and an elite warrior, gave me the necklace when he pledged himself to my service. The day he, a teenager at the time, became my sworn protector, I myself was still only a child. His father, the Elven King, had assigned him to guard me for life nonetheless. The Elvenkin are a skeptical and long-lived race. Their soldiers never ceased training for war, despite all threats from the past having long since vanished. Our human volunteer soldiers, a formality more than a fighting force, were surpassed tenfold the day Talon joined their ranks as a mere boy. I clipped the necklace behind Elsie's neck. Thank you, Arla. What about you? She turns to me. You could wear the queen's right. I rest my hand on her head, my smile fading slightly. The queen's right had been passed down from queen to queen in my family ever since my ancestor, Queen Valera the White, ruled. The fine white gold necklace and delicate angel pendant may be light in make, but are heavy on my soul. It was pure Queen Valera's ultimate wish that banished all evil from the world, sealing it away in a world all its own. In exchange for such a great wish, she surrendered her own life. It is said that the Queen Valera's only sister, Mikhail, was presented the necklace after the White Queen's death. It has been worn by every queen since. And every queen since bears Queen Valera's legacy on her shoulders when she wears it. I sigh. I don't like to wear mother's jewelry. I attempt a lighter explanation, pulling Elsie closer to me in a hug. But the right is yours now, you know, she counters. Besides, you look just like the paintings of the White Queen Valera. Everybody thinks so. Pulling away from her, I peer down into her face. Her bottom lip puckers out a little, her eyes scrunched up, pleading. For a moment, I forget she's only a few years younger than I. I can't help but laugh, nudging her towards the door. Okay, I'll wear it for you. Elsie fetches a silver velvet-lined box from my room. The queen's right rests inside. I push my hair to the side while she fastens it around my neck. The moment the angel pendant rests against my skin, a weight settles on me. I try to shrug the heaviness off. I'm opening my mouth to thank her when a clap of thunder deafens me. Shivers run down my spine. Elsie clutches me, shuddering, and lightning strikes somewhere in the forest. Goosebumps rise on my arms. Something eerie rolls in with the storm. Something my intuition can't ignore. And that is the end of chapter 1. Oh, thank you, Caitlin. Good to see you on. Congratulations on the second edition. Yes, it has been a long, long time in the making. Very excited for that. I think Amazon still has some editions of the paperback first edition for anybody that wants to see, but the opening is very different, at least in the very beginning. Both in the prologue and the opening of the expanded edition are more of that unedited, well, they're edited, but, undeleted. We're going to make this a word, undeleted scenes. But yeah. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in and for watching and being a part of my launch, the book launch yesterday. And there was just such a whirlwind of stuff going on that I was like, all right, well, let me do this read today. But it was so good to be on with you guys and to read for you live. If you would like to read The Vow That Twisted Fate, you can grab a copy at the link in the description box. Or if you're watching on Twitter, here's that link again. Again, it'll be 99 cents through the end of the month. Take care, everybody. Bye.